Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. Hello, welcome back to Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. I'm your host, Big Les. I thought in the absence of On The Burst, I would jump on and do a quick news podcast, just going through a couple of the updates. There's not too much to dive into. There's a few updates here, stuff that we've sort of maybe already covered a little bit as well on the podcast, but thought I'd jump right in and get stuck into the news that we would have done on The Burst. I think the show might still come out on Thursday. We're just sort of sorting out the logistics and stuff like that, availability and whatnot. I know that Brandon Savage is quite busy at the moment. Obviously got a young kid he's looking after and everything like that as well. So it is quite hard for him to get in and record an episode and do all that sort of stuff as well. So I thought I'd jump in. I thought I'd get stuck into some of the news updates that we've got here over the last couple of days so we can get that content out to you guys on our YouTube. Make sure if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube, become a part of the Big LEZ'S League community. But let's get stuck straight into it. Hugo Savala, he is set to stay at the Roosters, sign a 2-year extension. I really like this. I think that Hugo Savala, with the year that he had last year for the Roosters as well, I think there's definitely a possibility where we see him back. I think there's a possibility that we see him take over from DCE once he does retire. I said it when DCE signed. I think the DCE is sort of a win now signing. They want to get him in there so they can win now and get a competition. I think that they have decided to do it in season 2026. I think they're going to be a top 4 side next year with some of the guys that they've brought through. Rob Toya obviously playing Origin in his first year. Even just guys that get through a big number of work in the centres there, like your Billy Smiths, workhorses like Inafa'u Whites, who we saw have a bit of a breakout year this year. Plenty of stars. Tedesco doing great things towards the back end of his career. They've got the side to do it. They have got the side to do it. Marky Marks last year at the Roosters. Tupou, getting towards the end as well. They've got a really good team at the moment. It is a win now signing, getting DCE and experienced halfback into the building. I think you can definitely compare it to the signing of Cooper Cronk a few years ago, and they obviously won those back-to-back competitions there in 18 and 19. I think that it's definitely a win now signing. I really do hope that we get to see the best out of Hugo Savala after that stage as well. Hopefully they do bring him in. I also think that there's a chance that he plays a bit of 13 as well. I think that Hugo Savala is a real opportunity for him to jump into a bit of a 13 sort of role. Where he sort of fits with Watson and Radley, I think is going to be interesting. I mean, they've been trying to move Radley to the edge and they've tested him out there on a number of occasions last year, but also I think the year before that they did as well. So maybe there's a chance that Radley relocates to that right edge, and then it's a Watson and Savala sort of 13-14 rotation there in the 13 jersey. Maybe that's what we see next year. Who knows? I think it also provides the opportunity for Watson to go into a bit of a 9 role as well. So that'll obviously be one to watch out for as well. But Hugo Savala, keen to see in what capacity he finds his way into this Rooster side if he does play Cup next year and then move back into the halves for 2027. Some would then question, obviously, the smarts of signing DCE in the first place if you were just going to obviously have him for the 1 year and then go back to what you originally had, the side that you originally had in that 2025 season. Doesn't really make too much sense, but we'll have to wait and see what the plan is for Hugo Savala in this Rooster side, but it looks like he's going to re-sign for 2 years until the end of 2028. Harry Grant obviously won the Golden Boot. We sort of talked on this on the podcast already on the audio version. That is live now on Spotify and Apple. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously, Harry Grant, he did play well in 2 of those games for Australia. I think Guru made a really good point. We saw Cameron Munster get player of the series in the Ashes, yet Harry Grant's the one winning the Golden Boot over Munster. Some would argue that maybe Munster probably should have gotten the Golden Boot over Harry Grant in that sort of logic. It doesn't make too much sense there. But Harry Grant was good. He was very good for the 2 games there. I think that 2 out of those 3 games, he was really good. There was one game there where he had a little bit of an off day, but he was good. There's no denying that. Dylan Brown was way better, though. For the 3 games, he was a standout in those 3 games for New Zealand as well. He had an impact in all 3 of those games that New Zealand went on to win. He was fantastic. Really, really good form in the number 6 jersey there for the Kiwis. And he was key. He was easily the standout throughout Pacific Championships. You're looking at the Pac Champs, you're looking at the Pac Bowl, and you're looking at the Ashes. He was the standout in all three, 100%. So for him not to get that golden boot, I think is a little bit shit. I almost think that it's an excuse for us to sort of implement, having the golden boot decided by the fans. I sort of said it in the comment sections of a post the other day as well. I think that it, when you have the fans picking these sort of things, if you were to put up a few nominees, like obviously that we saw a few weeks ago when all the guys that were nominated for the golden boot were put up, your Dill Browns, Harry Grant, Munster, I think Payne Haas was there as well, Joseph Tarpanay. Let the fans vote on it. Let the fans vote on it. I think that you would have had a very clear winner in Dylan Brown, who was obviously the standout of the international football of 2025. So that's just my thoughts. I think that would be a way, I guess, not only to get what the fans want, but just to make the right call as well. We're here, we're watching. Most of us are watching every single one of these games. Not really voting for our favourite player. We're voting for the one that was the best. We'd probably make the right call there. In Dill Brown, I actually don't even know. I mean, as I said, Harry Grant played good football. You can't take that away from Harry Grant. I do think that Dylan Brown, though, was the standout. The Bears, Perth Bears, they're looking at Nick Meaney. We've sort of known that they've been talking to Nick Meaney for a while, and that he was a guy that was going to be thrown up as he does, fall into that threshold. He's off contract. At the Melbourne Storm, it looks like he's met with the Perth Bears officials as well, so that's going to be super interesting to see, I guess, what happens there. I think that with Nick Meaney, we were sort of talking about this on the podcast as well. He's a good signing to get early because, depending on how many guys they can actually get and how many guys are willing to go over to Perth in that first year, in that inaugural year, it's way different to the Dolphins, where you had Wayne Bennett at the club, a guy who's seasoned in coaching. It's in Redcliffe. It's not like it's, somewhere where, people are going to have to just pack up and make a sacrifice and move like Perth is. I think Perth's a completely different book to the Dolphins and what we saw a couple of years ago. But yeah, I think with Nick Meaney, if you get him early, depending on the guys that you can get into that squad and guys that you can get to make that sacrifice and move over, you can put Nick Meaney absolutely anywhere for that first season, whether it is at centre, whether it's at fullback, whether it's in the 5'8" position, in the halfback position. Well, obviously it won't be halfback because you've got Toby Sexton there, but, flexible. Nick Meaney is a real flexible signing. You don't have to necessarily lock him into a position. You can sign him, set and forget, and then you can find the rest of the guys. And then, when it does come time to putting a team list together based off the guys you can get in that first year, Nick Meaney can slot in a number of positions. So I think Nick Meaney would be a really smart signing early. You wouldn't have to pay too much for a Nick Meaney either. We actually built our Perth Bears team on the burst. That is on the Supercoach Experience YouTube. So mate, go ahead and watch that. We built the whole top 30 based on what the salary cap will be in that 2027 year as well. So get stuck into that. But yeah, Nick Meaney I think would be a very, very smart signing. Benji Marshall, he's extended till 2030. I think it's a really, really good re-signing. I know that the players are very close with Benji Marshall as well. So a really good re-signing there for the West Tigers. Definitely good to instill a little bit of faith back into the club. Also, Benji, I think that he's had the faith instilled in him from some individuals in the board, saying that what's happening in the higher ups, they're promising that it won't disrupt what they're building in the team. And down below with the culture and everything like that they're trying to implement there at the Tigers, which I think is a good thing for the club in the short term. Hopefully a few more players get put back on side. They can re-sign Jareen Buller, a few of these other guys as well, like your Luais and whatnot over the next couple of seasons, choose to extend and forego these clauses and whatnot in their contracts. But look, I think that it's definitely a step in the right direction. They've just really got to sort out the shit with the board. And obviously the protest happened the other day. A few of the Tigers supporters got out there and, showed their support, hopefully, embarking for change. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. I think they are going to plan to protest again in February. I think I saw somewhere as well, depending on what happens with the Holman Barnes group and whatnot. But that'll obviously be a really interesting watch as well. But a step in the right direction, at least for the football side of things, with Benji re-signing. At least then that would get the star players like your Finus, your Mays, Luai. I know that they're all very close with Benji Marshall. So to get all those guys back on side. Oren Keeley, he's signed with Melbourne, not for next year, but for the year after. They tried to get him for 2026, but the Dolphins said no. I think the Dolphins would be spewing at this one. He's a really good player, Oren Keeley. He seems like a Christian Wolf type of player. But in saying that, he seems like a Craig Bellamy type of player as well. And, obviously, I think that they are, a little bit safe now in the sense that, depending on what happens with Eli Katoa, granted, Oren Keeley isn't at the caliber of a Eli Katoa, but depending on what happens, we've seen a similar situation before with Keegan Hipgrave, obviously having to take the year off and then unfortunately having to retire from the game due to concussion. We've just seen Lachlan Croker as well retire from concussion as well. So it's a serious issue. And, if Melbourne do lose Eli Katoa, then they obviously have a guy like Oren Keeley, who in the short term at least can slot in there and do a good job. And I actually think that he'll, slot in there and do an incredible job too. I really do like Oren Keeley. I think that he's a really good player. As I said, I think that he is a Craig Bellamy type of player as well. So that's obviously going to be a really nice watch there to see how well he can go in that jersey. And if he does get a starting spot, I think if Eli Katoa does retire, he'll get into that right back row starting spot. I think that's the type of caliber player that he is, Oren Keeley. Very exciting stuff. Very, very exciting. I can't wait to see Oren Keeley at Melbourne in 2027. But good that the Dolphins can keep him for 2026. I think that he will be a very valuable member of their squad, depending on injuries and whatnot. He can come in and fill in really well. Seasoned in first grade now as well from last year. Very exciting player, Oren Keeley. Very excited to see what he can do going into next year for the Dolphins. And then obviously once he arrives in Melbourne, I think he'll be a pretty prominent part of their 17. He'll be in there somewhere. Jesse Calhoun, we sort of talked about him from a Bears perspective. I think that he'd be a really good signing for them. I think that he could be a future captain of the Bears as well. I can just see these little signs in his football, the way he carries himself, that he's that sort of player. I think that there's rep football in Jesse Calhoun as well in the distant future around the next 3 to 5 years. Really good player. The Knights are set to go hard for him now as well. I've heard that rumor a couple of weeks ago. Just chatting to someone who's quite close with the junior development there at the Newcastle Knights and whatnot. It sounds like they are going to go hard for Jesse Calhoun. I think that's a really good pickup if they do grab him, especially with the middles that they're lacking there at the Newcastle Knights. You're not only getting a guy who's really, really solid, really good defender, good ball handling, and he can be a future 13. As I said, he can be a future captain of that side as well, Jesse Calhoun. Really, really high raps on him. I think that he'd be a great get for the Knights. I think he'd suit their football as well. So definitely one to watch there, and still very, very young and raw into NRL. He's got that first season under his belt, but just keen to see, I guess, what else we can get out of him as well over the next couple of years, and if we're right in saying that he is probably going to be a future rep player. And then there's a bit of chat around extending the interchange bench as well. That's obviously a bit of interesting chat. I'm keen to see how much truth there is in that. And what I guess they're looking to do, if this is an official thing, if it's just discussion at this point. I've heard a few different radio stations and whatnot, experts throw it up. I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. I really don't know how I feel about it. I am a little bit conflicted. I think that it's good right now. I don't think the game's at the point where you need to necessarily extend the bench. I think if you extend the bench, you're going to have to extend the amount of interchanges that you have as well. I just don't know if that's 100% worth it. I think it's good where we're at right now. I think it's really good where we're at right now. What you decide to put into that other jersey as well. Say if you have a jersey 18 on the bench, is it for an outside back? Is it going to be another 14 option? What I guess you're going to throw into that jersey is going to be interesting. Is it literally just an injury covered jersey, and sometimes teams just won't use it and they'll just take the extra interchanges that come with that extra jersey? How many extra jerseys are we looking at? Are we looking at an 18? Are we looking at an 18 and 19? what's the go. That's going to be an interesting watch. But excited to see, I guess, if that is a real thing or if it's just rumor and discussion at the moment. But there you go, guys. That's your news podcast. Make sure if you haven't already to go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube, become a part of the big LEZ'S League community. Our Instagram, Spotify, and Apple podcasts are also in the description below. We will see you guys in the next one.